Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Zeus with Bruce. Today, we're going to quickly dive into the subject of priming and why this is so crucial, so important to be aware of. Because if you're not priming yourself, the world will prime you. Really, that simple. So, what is priming? Priming, to define it literally, is a phenomenon in which exposure to one stimulus influences how a person responds to a subsequent related stimulus. These stimuli are often conceptually related words or images. So, basically, what you're seeing and what you experience through stimuli will affect how you perceive other stimulants in your environment. For example, if we are talking about food, and then I ask you to name or to say a word that begins with the letter S, a four-letter word, you're more likely to say soup than to say sock, unless you eat socks, but obviously we don't. And how is this so important? It's because the environment is choosing what is going to come on the inside versus our inside choosing how we're going to interpret the environment. Because it can be raining cats and dogs, life can be totally miserable on the outside. However, if you've primed yourself on the inside to notice actually what's good, what's positive, opportunity, you are going to see opportunity even through the raining of the cats and the dogs and any problems that may be in your environment. On the other side, if you're not primed, then you're actually subject to what's happening in the environment. And even if everything's going great, because of your priming in the beginning of the day, how you've been conditioned, you'll actually respond to these stimuli in a way that's actually less advantageous for yourself. So, as a really great example, I'll probably butcher the details, but there was a study where they had participants, they had these actors pretend to be people who were going to take questionnaires of random people on a university campus. And what they did is they would have people come to them and they would ask them, hey, would you please take this two-question questionnaire? It's a short two-paragraph story about this individual. And if you do so, we'll give you 20 bucks. 20 bucks for probably 2 minutes of your time. Very great return on investment. So these people read the story, and then they answer the questions that were asking if the person in the story, the character, was someone who's selfish, focused only on attaining what they want, and disregarded others. Now, the other question was if the person was, if they were more caring. And it basically had these two separate sides of someone who's selfless and someone who's selfish. And what they noticed is that the answers varied very differently for two different sets of groups. Why was it so different? The group that was handed the study, as well as the 20 bucks for completing the task, both groups really were handed either warm cups of coffee or cold cups of coffee. The individuals who were handed the warm cups of coffee answered that the character in the story was selfless, warm, and receptive. And the people who were handed a cold cup of coffee said that the person was selfish, self centered, all the attributes that would be attributed to someone who's only focused on himself. The only differentiating factor was the warm cup of coffee versus the cold cup of coffee. And it literally created, I believe the percentage was probably 85% on each side for whatever the stimulant was that they actually received, whether the cold coffee or the hot coffee. If this can happen by something so simple, what does that illustrate to us can happen when in the morning, let's say, most people are quickly hopping onto social media or anything on their phone and immediately being bombarded, and I use that word very deliberately, bombarded by stimuli that they most likely didn't choose, or if they believe that they chose it because they follow certain news outlets and certain media platforms, that they actually even chose that. Crazy. When we wake up in the morning, we wouldn't let people be who are knocking on our door. Let's say if there's 100 people knocking on our door to get in. We obviously wouldn't let them in. It's insane. We just woke up. Now, we do the same thing on our phones. We do the same thing by letting these alerts, these events, these messages, these calls get us in the morning and already anchor us to chaos and confusion. And that is not the anchor that you want in order to proceed the day and receive anything that comes. The anchors that we build and that we hold on to, those are the anchors as to which creates the lens to how we're going to see the day and how we're going to interact with other people. So, what can be done? Of course, this is a problem. How do we have a solution? Really quite simple. There, in the morning or anytime you actually want to re anchor yourself, be conscious of what you are choosing to put in. In the morning, you are going from a state of pure unconsciousness. There's no stimulation, right? You see black, you don't hear anything, you're not even aware that you're breathing, you don't know that you're smelling or inhaling through your nose. And what happens when you first wake up, in the first split second, you are bombarded with stimuli. That is when you regain consciousness. And that's the interior of the room you're waking up in. Those are the sounds that you're going to hear. Anything that is going to be a sensory perception, it will be affected as soon as you wake up. So deliberately choosing in the morning to anchor yourself in would look like having your immediate environment looking how you'd want to have your day set up. If you wake up and your room is total chaos, there's just stuff on the floor, it's messy, everything's out of order, that anchors you for that day to see everything else as being potentially out of order. Of course, it comes down to cleaning your room and doing all these things, but also being very deliberate with how your room looks, with what smells are going to be in your room, if there's going to be a window open to get fresh air, to hearing the birds chirping. If we do not consciously decide how we want to be primed, the environment will prime for us, which totally is going to eliminate any sense of autonomy and will that we have to change the circumstances in our life. Now, one final bit that can help incredibly is if we are going to go down the social media route and find a way to use social media in a healthy way in the morning, because again, we're not really interacting with these strangers, not strangers, people we know. We're interacting with them, just we're doing so after just first regaining consciousness. Our brains are assessing if we're safe, if we're in danger, if there are resources we need to get in the immediate. And if we're looking at that and we have people coming in very quickly, we actually can't take care of ourselves, which minimizes our ability to take care of others and actually engage with others in a way that's more conducive to the relationships, to the opportunities, to the moments we want to create, foster, and establish. What I've been doing for the past couple of weeks, which has been a massive game changer, is to not check any social media, any emails until I finish my morning priming that I do, as well as going to the gym. And once I complete the morning priming, I do my morning journaling. I finish at the gym, which I'm able to get there most days at 6:30. I have that entire anchor where I cleared my mind, I planned for the day, I was able to fill my mind with some wisdom and some insights, and then physically pushing the body, which is going to activate the brain and the heart and have those two be in tandem, sets you up where even if you get the most horrendous, horrific news on your phone, which I actually did a few days ago, was able to respond to it myself. I was able to respond in a way that was calm, in a way that was receptive, in a way that didn't view it as total catastrophe. However, if I were to not do any of those things, wake up, and even if I'm super zen, you're just not anchored. So, like a boat in the ocean, if you don't anchor yourself into the sand, any wind or breeze will take you. Now, we have the choice when we're in this ocean to choose where we're going to be anchored. The only thing we need to do is anchor ourselves in before the uncontrollable events, which is the wind and the currents, do. Because if we don't, we won't be deciding at all how things are going to play out for ourselves. Above all, prime yourself, prime yourself, prime yourself. I'll attach a link to the priming I do every morning. It's a 15-minute meditation. Envision what it would look like if you were actually selecting how you responded to stimuli and you had that conscious choice to do so, as opposed to just letting it happen to you. Personally, I like to be a little more in control and decide what comes in because what comes in must come out. All right. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, Zeus with Bruce. Peace.